You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive coverage from the ETSI NFV number 9 meeting here in Prague in the Czech Republic. And I'm joined now by Heather Kirksey, who is director of the OPNFV. Heather, thanks for joining us on TelecomTV.
You're welcome.
Firstly, can you tell me something about the background to OPNFV and its objectives?
Right, so it actually came out of the ETSI NFV work. So the service providers who got together and founded it realized that they wanted to actually move into sort of the implementation phase once they had gotten their requirements figured out, and they were interested in doing that in an open source fashion. So they reached out to the Linux Foundation and came together to create a collaborative project around open source integration for NFV.
And who are your members or projected members?
Pretty much the service providers, the large telecom equipment vendors, software developers, and pretty much anyone who's interested in NFV.
So are you still open to participation from new companies, new members?
Definitely. We are having new members join all the time, and we're also open to participants who aren't even members. So if you want to get on the wiki, start joining our weekly calls, look around at some of the projects, anyone is free to come and do that.
Now, I understand that you had your first hackathon here in Prague the day before the ETSI event started.
Yes, Monday and Tuesday.
And how did that go?
It went really well. It was our inaugural event, and we had more than 80 people, which I understand is the largest number of attendees for an inaugural Hackfest of any of the Linux Foundation collaborative projects so far.
That's excellent. Excellent. When you talk about Hackfest, what were they hacking?
We did a lot of things. We spent a lot of time working on our release 1 planning and deliverables. We looked at a lot of the install tools that we're building. The second day we divided into tracks, and we got a lot of the requirements projects together to sit down and work on things and come up with what they needed from the community and what we could do to facilitate their work and make it easier for them.
Now, you mentioned release 1 there, so,
yes.
So can you give us some idea of your timescale and your milestones?
Yeah. So we have a target release date of late April. And we are busily marching towards that. So anyone who wants to come and join in and help us meet that date, that would be great.
It brings us onto a point of this merger between the traditional telecoms companies and the open software Linux communities. It's interesting that the service providers were the ones who wanted to embrace that first.
Right.
Does that imply that there is a level of trust there now, and telcos and the traditional telecoms industry does indeed trust the open source community?
I think it's building. I think that it varies amongst different providers, but I really think they've seen what it's been able to do. Things like Linux and just how successful they are, and powering everything from our smartphones to our MacBooks, and I think that they see the world changing. I think they want to be a part of it. And a lot about how open source works, it does end up sort of building a lot of trust. It's part of it's baked into the culture. So I think it's really neat and fun to see that building and to see everybody start coming together and really rolling up their sleeves and working as a community.
Because we see the role of developers increasing in all aspects of IT and computers. Are developers now at a stage where they're influencing or moving ahead and shaping the pace of innovation in the telecoms industry, especially in terms of service provision? Yeah,
no, I think they definitely are, and I think that that's a bit of a change from the traditional sort of requirements process. And requirements have to be perfect and fully fleshed out and complete consensus around them before you start moving on to sort of implementation. Whereas in the open source world, it's a lot more fail fast, fail early, fail often. Hack if you don't get it right the first time, that's expected. So it's a lot more sort of grassroots, open to sort of maybe not getting things right, but then making it more reliable in the long term.
Now, there are a number of different bodies, associations, groupings that many in the telco community feel have to be part of to develop NFV. How do you ensure that all these groups work together and that there's commonality and there's minimal overlap in work?
That is actually part of what OPNFV does. So we are an integration project, which is actually a bit different in the open source world. There aren't, to my knowledge, any large-scale integration projects quite like us. But what we do is we actually do bring together the code from folks like OpenStack, OpenDaylight, KVM, Linux, Open vSwitch, and actually bring them together to create the entire end-to-end platform.
And how important is it that service providers share use cases with the community?
It's absolutely critical. That's how we're going to be able to test the platform to make sure it's actually really going to meet their needs, is to have their use cases to drive our testing and to really ensure that what we're building is actually what they want to deploy.
Well, Heather, best of luck with Release 1, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for joining us on Telecom TV.
You're very welcome. Thank you.